It's not easy to find an original show that, as a concept, works so well and brings supernatural monsters to life with such great effects. And I'm specifically talking about a series I suggest you check out called Sweet Home. Based on a Korean online comic book, it is not a zombie drama, but also in some aspects it is. There is a building complex where tenants have to deal with the world going absolutely insane. People are starting to get sick, and once the sickness runs its course, people become monsters. And the monsters are very different and very unique. They're not exactly zombies, but they are unkillable. And the tenants have to deal with not only the horror that happens outside, but also the things that are happening inside, because one by one, the people starts to turn into the zombies that we see. The zombie monster hybrids are so unique and well done that the series doesn't stop to entertain at every episode. But the tenants are not ordinary people. Of course, we're going to have characters that we're used to with typical character tropes. There's the gangster, the ballerina, the loner, the gamer, the smart stoic guy, the store owner, the inventor, the firefighter that plays as a hero. It's just very well crafted to the degree that it has elements of a soap opera. And what I mean is the relationships are somewhat forced, but it works so well and it is portrayed so well by the actors that you're entertained at every minute. And that's why this stands out for me as a fantastic, almost zombies show. The central character of this series is Hyun, a loner high schooler gamer kind of guy that becomes something different than the other tenants and the monsters outside. He's somewhat of a hybrid, and he's almost in control. By this transformation, he is central to the survival of the rest of the tenants of the complex building, and we learn a lot about his backstory as well as about the backstory of the other tenants that make this show very complex and also interesting. I always point out why a show draws me in, and most Korean dramas draw me in because not only do I learn about the different style of filmmaking, but I also learn about cultural intricacies of Korea, which to me is fascinating because they're so similar to what I'm used to seeing in North American TV shows, but they bring an element of surprise in every episode, and it's just a delight to see very cliche characters brought up in a different setting, making them by definition different and very interesting to watch. I mentioned before this is a zombie monster hybrid kind of story, and the monsters that are done very well with virtual effects and some practical stuff are representative of a variety of evils, sins. Something peculiar is characteristic of each one of the monsters. There's a giant bulk Hulk type of monster, there's a monster with a giant eye, and they vary in sizes as well as abilities, and they are a standout for what this show also brings. And of course, it's based on this very cool webcomic that I suggest you check after you have seen the show, because it does spoil a few things if you do it the other way around. The score is very good. The acting is just perfect for the genre. It's a tiny bit over the top at times, but it fits so well. The world crumbles around the characters and they're pushed into more difficult choices and more deaths and blood starts splattering everywhere, I was very surprised how this show didn't feel heavy. Other shows have dealt with grim situations where there's a lot of death around. I'm going to bring up, for example, The Walking Dead. And after watching a few episodes of The Walking Dead, I felt very heavy. I felt that I was doing something complicated instead of being entertained. Sweet Home actually is refreshing because it doesn't do that at all, and you can binge watch the entire series without feeling like you're working through something. And even though the situations that the characters are dealing with are very complex and emotionally heavy, you don't feel bogged down or pressured. And that is a fantastic achievement because most of the time we're dealing with a show where everything is grim, the situation is hopeless. I tend to feel as I'm part of the situation, as if I'm under pressure and the situation is so dire. This show, by being tiny bit over the top, by having fantastical creatures rather than lifelike zombies, the tiny bit of over the top acting, I felt very entertained and not weighted down. In an abundance of Korean dramas, crime thrillers, horror stories, I find Sweet Home has a special place in my heart because of the nature of the show, the quality of the writing, the outstanding special effects, the great acting, the subtle soundtrack that is very complimentary, and I strongly suggest you check it out on Netflix. You're going to be pleasantly surprised. I wonder what is your favorite Korean show right now and why. I'm Jin from Get Me More, and you know where to find me. Thank you for watching. You probably noticed in the background there are a couple of ears sticking out. What kind of monster do you think this is?